Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I'm going to tell you a story today about two Holocaust survivors that I actually met. They were both in Auschwitz, which was a Nazi prison in Poland, and there's the entrance gate, Arbeit macht frei, which means work makes free. That was a laugh. This video, Auschwitz, 5 days in November 1995, talks in German all the time now. I've been in Germany many times and my German is very rusty, so I'll play this without the sound.
Betrachtet man es aus der Untersicht, damit es größer aussieht. Das Tor mit seinem zynischen Leitspruch muss groß sein und muss eindrucksvoll wirken.
So I'll take the sound off that and tell you the story. You can watch this. I met two Holocaust survivors during my life. One when I was 10 years old. My mother took me to Munich in Germany to meet her Second World War boyfriend. And we met his wife and his daughter, who was the same age as me, and I fell in love with her. And I always suspected her of being my stepsister. I don't know, that would have been pretty, well, anyway. But also in his house in Munich was his aged mother, who was an Auschwitz survivor. And she was a little tiny, frail, old woman, and she didn't talk at all when she rarely came out of her room. Now remember, I was 10 years old, but I did see the Auschwitz number on her wrist. So Michael Germanica, my mother's boyfriend, had been in Scotland during the war in the Polish army, and he was Jewish. The family were Jewish. He was a great guy, and he worked for Radio Free Europe then in the 1960s. Now Radio Free Europe was actually the CIA controlled propaganda organ in Munich, broadcasting to Poland, which of course was communist then. So I didn't know he was CIA at that time, but we were shown around the station, the radio station. And as I say, his mother never talked, so that was really my first Holocaust survivor that I met. So the second one I'll tell you about, this really got me interested in studying Auschwitz. And after I finished the Dundee Abertay University, I wasn't doing anything, and I studied Auschwitz for a year. Now, and during that time, now just stop this for a moment. There's the gas canisters and so on. On my website, I've got this is a bit of a page from my website, which is flatearthhighlands.org. And Yalta Victim, the second Holocaust survivor I met, and here's her obituary in the Glasgow Herald, Zoe Polanski Palmer. And I met her in Brit POW. I went to her house and she gave me a book that she'd written. She's a lovely woman, and that's a picture of Brit POW and Dundee in the background. So her story's incredible. Yeah, she was in Auschwitz. Now, she wasn't Jewish, she was actually a Russian Christian. And there's all sorts in Auschwitz, more of that later. So Zoe, as I say, gave me her book. She signed it, and unfortunately, has lost it in the travels and so on. But she was married to a Canadian, and another Canadian will come up later up in the story, and that's her obituary, and that's how famous she is. So click that off, and oops. Now, another Auschwitz survivor whose book I read was Arthur Dodds, an Auschwitz survivor, and his book Spectator in Hell. There were 600 British soldiers, captured soldiers in Auschwitz. You never hear about them. And he wrote Spectator in Hell, and he's also dead. But in that book, he never mentions gas chambers. He mentioned about burning pits, but he was in Auschwitz, never mentions gas chambers or anything like that. So that's Arthur Dodds' Spectator in Hell. But going back to Yalta Victim, Zoe Polanski Palmer, now I asked her about the gas chambers. Zoe Polanski Palmer said to me the only gas chambers in Auschwitz were for fumigating clothes, and which is the story. The Zyklon B was used in all the camps, and it was used in houses, Zyklon B, and in fact Zyklon B is still used, this type of chemical, because lice was a big thing. Lice killed everybody, and the British Army had terrible trouble until DDT was invented. But you know, you hear about 6 million Jews in Auschwitz, but you know, there was all sorts. There was homosexuals, communists, partisans, well, just everybody from all around the world. So you hear all the stories about it, so there's so much controversy about it, and you know, you've got to learn things, and you'll learn a lot from this chap, Ernst Zundel, who's called a Holocaust denier. Nobody denies the Holocaust, but they deny there was homicidal gas chambers. And Ernst Zundel was in jail in Canada and in Germany. Now, here is Ernst Zundel's been interviewed by an Israeli journalist, and I mean, the Israelis hate him, you know. You see, in Germany and Canada, you cannot say what you think. If you say there was no homicidal gas chambers in Auschwitz, well, you're straight in the...
And
you're straight in
told me that he, on short notice, was in Canada. He was doing some stories.
So, this is a long interview. It's 2 hours.
Capital of Adolf Hitler's Germany at the end of the Second World War. They got even their food ration cards.
So, that's an interesting...
In Berlin. In the head. A function.
Also, you may have heard of David Irvin, a historian. Now, he went to Auschwitz, and he also says, and he's also been in prison.
Ile to będzie kosztowało? 20 zł. O, proszę, tam jest 20. Fajne, dziękuję.
Talking in Polish.
Czy pan ma coś, może tu...
I met, so there's the famous gate. I'll turn off the sound, but I met my Polish friend who actually bought my yacht last November. He's a Polish guy, and I couldn't afford my yacht. I'm extremely rich, but it was getting a bit expensive, Inverness, Marina and so on, and buying drink for the crew. So David Irving is a guy to look. It's a marvellous story, and he wrote books about Hitler, and okay, some people say he was a Nazi, but they say that. But he's a researcher. He went to Russia and researched the German archives. But as I say, he's considered a Holocaust denier. But getting back to Zoe Polanski Palmer, I mean, she was in there. You know, you'll hear people saying the smoke belching out the chimneys. Zoe said there was nothing, you know, and it's impossible to cremate all these bodies that they said because they need so much coal or coke, and they didn't have that there. And at the end of the Second World War, the British bombed everything that moved, you know. They even bombed Auschwitz, you know. They bombed the train lines. There was no food. The German soldiers were starving, and because they were starving and the prisoners and getting very little food, they were getting typhus, because the typhus lies, because they weren't allowed, they run out of Cyclone B, which fumigated the clothes, and they would catch typhus, and that's why they were all dying. And you see the people all skinny. Well, they were starving, but they also had typhus, but because they couldn't get the food. The whole of Germany was starving, you know, because there was no infrastructure, no railways, and factories were bombed and so on. But so it's worth researching these things, you know. But so Zoe Polanski Palmer put me totally right to the Auschwitz, you know, and I urge you to research it. See, there's so many big lies being told. Many of you will have heard of 9/11, and also in Dundee after 2002 was 9/11 happened, and I decided to research that, and I spent a year on 9/11 because that's just what I do, and you know, that was an inside job and all the rest of it. There's so much rubbish. The official story is absolutely crap. We've been told all these lies, and people are believing them. And well, you can't speak out about the Auschwitz and the Holocaust, or you never get a job. You know, you'll never get any money from the bankers or anything like that. But 9/11 is, you know, people are waking up. Oh, we've been told lies. I mean, we were told there was weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and we were told that Iraq was going to send a nuclear bomb over to Cyprus, and now we've been told that North Korea is going to fly a nuclear bomb over to the USA. Now, North Korea doesn't even have nuclear bombs, you know, and we've run out of enemies about Iraq and all that, and Russia, you know, the Cold War. I mean, there wasn't a Cold War. They were just pals who started going up into space. Now, this is moving on to the next conspiracy, space. Do you think men have been in the moon? No. I mean, there's a video of, President Nixon talking on the phone to the astronauts on the moon. There's no time delay, they're chatting away quite merrily. That is that gas chamber which was actually built after the war for the tourists, and there's a whole lot of stories about that. But so President Nixon is talking to the astronauts on the moon, no time delay. Now I'm watching the ISS, the first videos of it, there was like a 10-minute time delay. Look for the time delay. And also while I'm on it, look for bubbles in space. You see bubbles, you know, it's all, the ISS is filmed underwater, the exterior shots, you know, and the CGI and cartoons and all that. And while I'm on that, look for a picture of the Earth from space or from the moon. Look for the blue marble shots which are created in Photoshop, which I use myself. I was a photographer, I'm a photographer, wedding photographer I used to do. And it's just the lies that you've been told. And now flat earth come up. You may have seen the signs on the roads. Now, I didn't make those signs, but started researching flat earth, you know, and I've sailed around the world a zillion times, sometimes in the wrong direction. I was a merchant seaman for 12 years. And, you know, nobody told me it was a ball of earth. I sailed around, I'd gone to Cuba, through the Panama Canal, across the Pacific to Japan, Australia, Australia to Cape Town, Australia to the Suez Canal, which is totally flat, and back home to the UK. The world to me was, you went round. So I researched flat earth and I find that the earth is flat. Well, the earth is, I'm going to say the earth is not a round ball, not an oblate spheroid, as they call it now. The world is flat, and it may be like a penny, you know, flat and thin, and so on. They've only gone down the Russians have drilled down 8 miles, so that's the furthest I've ever been, but they tell you there's the gas chamber in Auschwitz, which for various facts, you know, was never, I guess, it was actually an air raid shelter, and so on, for the German troops. There is so much to research, and I know that most people don't have much time. They're busy working and feeding the bairns and so on, walking the dog, you know. Well, I don't have any of that stuff, so I do this. And so my website is, in fact, we'll just have a look at it, which might be quite good to do. It's just coming up. Flat Earth. Now, it says there the Earth is flat. Now, maybe that's been a bit presumptuous. And there's a map of the flat Earth. Well, whatever the Earth is not a round ball globe. I've researched this thoroughly, and there's the map which I have. It's really big, and here's the curvature. The curvature, you can work it out. Now, the Loch Ness, which you may have heard of, and I've sailed down in my yachts many times, it's 24 miles long. Now, if you look, the curvature of the Earth at 20 miles is 266 feet. So if you were looking from Loch End towards Fort Augustus, you wouldn't see it because, according to the circumference, the Fort Augustus is 266 feet below the curvature of the Earth. Well, it's not, it's flat. Here's a great guy, John Smith Globe Lie YouTube channel, and but the main thing is 200 proofs the Earth is not a spinning ball. This is Eric DeBay. When I saw this 200 proofs, that was me hooked, you know. Now, why does the UN have a flat Earth flag? You know, it doesn't have a brown ball. It has. So there's my seat, and I'm going to the About Us page. There's a lot of crap about me. There's my yacht, luxury yacht, my house. That's the Inverness to Caroline. As I say, I was a photographer. Oh, there's Lindsay. She's a lovely girl, you know. That photo was taken against my wall just here. Now, you may notice I've been accused of terrorism, you know, I've been accused of hell of a lot of things, but there you go. It helped the Royal National Lifeboat Association because they saved my life at the Mull Container one time, and I was very grateful, you know. And my cat was on the boat at the time, so there we are. Scotland in Space. He was on the BBC. Now, if you believe anything you read in the BBC, well, you know, you're brain dead. Cloudless Scotland snapped from space. This is a photo of it, you know. There's no planes, no satellites, no space junk, no seagulls, nothing. You know, and they're saying this photo was taken from space. Now, that's just, actually that's stories about in the Inverness Courier and the Press and Journals. Scottish flat earther wanted by police for FE graffiti. As I said, it wasn't me. Now there's a picture, a very bad picture of from the Caledonia Stadium to Channery Point. Now, if you go by the curvature, and there's earth curvature calculators, that Channery Point should be under 32 feet of curvature. And Channery Point is really quite flat, and you would see, you know, you would see it. But you see it, it's a flat earth, it's not round. So I'll leave you with this picture of the map, and if you look at my website, which is flatearthhighlands.org, thank you very much.